This is From the Pro, conversations with the creators of the proletariat. Here's Jim Bratton.
That sip of tea that you heard was Elizabeth Punches. She is beginning tonight, the November 25th, right?
Yes, Art Walk.
She is the Art Walk artist at the Proletariat, and you'll be here through January 10th.
Yes, with the artist talk on the 4th.
January 4th. So you get some in-depth stuff from Elizabeth then. Now we're just going to talk about Elizabeth Punches, who she is, what her art is, and what this display or this exhibit is this evening. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
It's called flying, floating, and falling.
Yes.
A metaphor.
Yep.
I thought of this as like a flying dream.
Could be.
However, when I read your description of the motivation, it was a lot more complex than that.
Yeah.
So, tell me just a quick synopsis of you. In other words, give me an elevator bio, if you don't mind.
An elevator bio?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Elizabeth Punches. I am a fine artist working downtown Galveston, Texas with a brick-and-mortar signature studio. I'm very fortunate to have it, and I love producing work out of it, and I've been there for about 4.5 years now. I had a studio around the corner in the Frostbank building, downtown Galveston, Texas, for 7 years before that, and produced a lot of work out of there. And I moved here directly from graduating college in Bristol, Tennessee. I'm 55 years old. I have a Bachelor of Fine Art from Virginia Intermont College in Bristol, Virginia.
Right.
I have 3 sons who are grown men now who live all over the United States, and I'm very happy. I live by myself with 2 dogs.
You sound and look very happy this evening.
Thanks.
And you should be, because your work here this evening is just incredible.
Thanks.
All right, back to the work. Flying, floating, and falling, a metaphor. Like I said, I thought of this as a flying dream. Read your description of your motivation on preparing this body of work, and I see it is so much more than that. So tell me how you got here. And how many pieces are here, by the way?
How I got to this body of work?
Yeah.
There are 13 pieces in this show, but initially when I was creating the idea for the show, I had 20 pieces. There are others that I'm working on that I hope to be included in the show, but you never know how it's going to wind up. You really don't. But I work off of whatever obsessions I have. You know, I see art as a form of communication. And usually when I'm working on a theme, it's in response to something that's in my life or something that I observe and I just can't shake. And there's different ways of exploring each one of those ideas.
You care to share what in life led you to this?
Well, it's, I live in a very fertile community. I mean, everyone seems to know everybody. You can't walk your dog around the street without running into people that you know. And there's a lot of, hey, how's it going? Hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And often people just reply fine or whatever. And it has absolutely nothing to do with how they're really doing.
That is the American way.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to explore that a little bit. Now, I have had people, when I've asked, hey, how are you doing? They will actually stop and tell me for 30 minutes exactly how they're doing, which is the opposite end of the problem.
Someplace there is a blend of rhetorical and serious.
Right. And sometimes, I really want to know, like, why do you have that look on your face?
We were talking about the bridge between rhetorical questions and in-depth questions and what kind of response you get. And sometimes people respond with a 30-minute explanation.
Yeah. And, sometimes it's just nothing at all. And I don't know what people should do. I'm not saying anything like that. But what I'm doing is I've put it into, or in listening to my friends' stories.
Yeah.
There's really 3 phases. You're either flying,
right,
floating,
right,
or falling. And sometimes you don't realize that you're in transition. Sometimes you're moving from floating into falling or from falling into flying. And there's a transition that happens. And the reason why I think that's important is because, none of these states are permanent. In the small community, people try to, I think in any kind of community, there's stereotypes that people fit into, and part of our disposition is part of the stereotype that we wear. And by kind of acknowledging, like, hey, these are phases that everybody goes through, no matter what they're pursuing or what they're working on. Nobody has it 1,000% every day. You wouldn't want it. You wouldn't want that. If everything was without an obstacle,
Right.
If everything was easy flying into the west, every day you get bored, you'd lose your challenge. And I think that's dangerous. As good as it feels, it's sort of like comfort, which is the center heart of this whole body of work. It's the orange and green one.
Yes. Wow.
She's very comfortable. I almost named her, I like it here. And her hair is actually suspending. Some of these figures are in water, some are in air, some have made contact with the ground, and those I try to have dancing in different ways.
Some are launching from the ground, some are floating in whatever space they're in,
Yep.
and some are obviously falling.
Yeah.
So what you've done, if I'm understanding this, is you have articulated 3 human states
Yeah.
in terms of movement.
Yes.
And then you've taken that and made it spatial and
Well, it is
illustrated and
spatial.
art.
Yeah. The illustration part was the easy part, but the hard part is trying to how do you describe I'm feeling no pain. I am soaring high and nothing can stop me. And Eastern Wind was my first piece that I wanted to sort of show that in a way that I could live with. Yeah. Like, hey, I'm above all of the stuff happening below. This is going my way. My palms are open. I accept it all.
That is an illustrated flying dream.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be. These are vague enough in terms of what they actually are to where, if you yourself, Jim, wanted to hang it in your office where you saw it every day, you could still relate to it without feeling like a blonde woman wrapped in gosling cloth hovering over the town. Now, here's the thing, though. If you look at her,
Yes?
have you seen people skydive before?
Yeah.
All right. So that's actually the model. The model is from someone who's skydiving who has not released their chute yet. So she's technically, even though she's flying and in the flying category, she's technically falling and very fast.
You got great pleasure out of taking that dark, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have left these with a nebulous explanation, with the idea that every person can establish a specific point that they're feeling.
Well, they could probably, we work in patterns.
Right.
Nobody does anything all the time, right?
Yeah.
But we do stuff in patterns enough of the times to where someone could follow behind and fairly predict how one of my days is going to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we do that to each other, too.
Right. Well, so, all right, those are the two, and those two are very, very dramatic, and both make that point. Let's talk about another piece or two that you've got.
Okay.
The man on the left, that's, what's...
Okay, see how they're hung, those both Comfort and the one hung just next to her where he's sort of in a twist in midair. Okay, so they're the central pieces of the show, and where she's very warm and coming from this very mossy place and being suspended almost like a lily by her hair. He is completely the opposite. There is nothing but air touching him.
What's that titled then?
Well, originally I think it was called What Did You Say? But I wound up changing it to The Fallen Man or The Falling Man, and I'm okay with either one of those.
I think Falling Man says it, falling and looking over his shoulder going, what in the world did I do? Or what happened?
When I initially started creating it, I was going to create it, I was going to call it, and I think it's what's on the title is What Did You Say? It's that moment where you're plugging right along and say you have a whole mindset about how things are going, and then all of a sudden you get a call from your CEO that says, hey, we ain't got nothing. We can't even pay our employees.
Hey, by the way, here's your cardboard box.
Right.
And the guy in the gray uniform will escort you from the building.
In a week.
In a week.
You have a week to prepare your get your things in order. And that happens. Here's the thing. We're laughing, but that happens. That happens a lot.
If you get a week, you sometimes are lucky.
Yeah. And I've, that's happened in my family before. It's happened to me before. And like I said, I'm laughing now, and I'm so glad it happened. But at the time, it was very hard.
These are interesting approaches that you have here, and I'm so glad that you're sharing with us. I don't want to call it the motivation, but the observational imagery
Thanks.
that you've put together to build this.
Thank you.
So we've got a couple of more a little bit smaller pieces over here. One which is very intriguing, the one right behind Mary's head on that wall, right next to the sign, by the way, for those of you that are
Pelico.
dropping by, right under a metaphor.
That's Pelico.
That's called what?
Pelico.
Yeah.
And she's a very unusual dancer. I pulled her straight from a vintage photo pile in a stock photo image, and I fell in love with her. I did a series many, many years ago on two New Orleans burlesque dancers, and Nita and Zeta. They were famous during their time, and nobody knows who they are now.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of societies out there and their names. And in it, while I was searching for information for them, I ran across this beautiful woman, and I lost the information of her name. But it's her moves that I love the most, and I look forward to having her back if she doesn't move. But because of her energy, because of her, I said whatever, bitches, and the bitches whatevered.
That is just great. No, it sums it up.
That's crude, but but that's her whole position. I made a point in this entire body of work to not really focus on so much like the importance of what they're wearing, unless it mattered to the composition.
Right.
I've got another friend who has a show tonight who's doing nothing but nudes, and they're breathtaking. They're so powerful. But the thing about artwork, and one of my friends who keeps reminding me of this, is that it's not all about what my intention are. That there has to be a connection between the viewer and the piece.
How do you feel when a viewer perceives the art as totally different than you intended?
Well, I mean, that happens a lot.
I know it does.
That happens a whole lot. And, I try not to offend people. I do put a little bit of thought into that. I try not to get in trouble. I put a little thought into that. But basically, this is my statement, and I make it with paint, and I have one shot for you to get it, basically, unless you want to live with it for a while and let it soak in. But it's my intention. Now, just like with people's words, they could get interpreted to however the person receiving wants to. And sometimes that can be a very beautiful thing, and sometimes it can be a tragedy. I don't have any control over what happens in people's minds once I'm done painting it. It's done on my end. And I hope people connect to it. I do. I really, really do. And when that happens, sometimes it can move me to tears.
Sure.
But if people
even if their interpretation of the emotion of the piece is different,
is very different than how I intended. Absolutely. And like I said, it happens. Just like there's songs out that are about completely different things than what they sound like. Right. That's the relationship that the audience has with the piece, and that the viewer and the patron also have with the piece.
I think we'll have a good-sized crowd this evening.
I hope so.
Yes. Good night. I should mention that everything that we've talked about is on the wall.
Yes.
It's for sale.
Yes.
And this is an audio podcast. We'll try to accompany it with some images.
Visuals.
And a visual podcast as well, and put it up on YouTube and other social media. Speaking of social media, if people want to see more about you, where can they go?
I'm on Facebook. I'm Elizabeth Punches on Facebook. And not only am I on there personally, but I have a studio page as well, Elizabeth Punches Studio and Gallery.
Got it.
As far as I know, I'm the only studio and gallery downtown Galveston, which is a little different than your typical gallery. I'm actually producing work in there, and so it gets dirty and it rotates and everything's on wheels. But I have regular open hours, and the only time that I'm not hosting those open hours is when I'm working on contract with conservation companies around town, as well as with a conservation company around town, as well as teach over at the Galveston Art Center. Our drawing sessions, I teach immersive drawing, which is a very intensive drawing class, and it comes with studio sessions. So I actually meet with the students twice a week. We have a lecture class, which is usually every Monday, and then our study sessions are in the evenings from 5 till 7, sometimes hosted at my studio, and so that I can work on what I'm working on while they're working what they're working on.
They have a lot to learn from you because you have a lot to share.
They teach me every day, especially the teens. That they're so fresh and bright. They'll take some of the things that some of the exercises that I give to them and twist it around to where it comes up with something that I never thought it could. And then I start remembering watching my dad try to mess with an 8-track tape and thinking, oh,
Now you understand.
this is where we're at now.
That's right. You are so right. Elizabeth Punches, we can find out more about you, of course, on Facebook.
Yes.
Be sure to come by the Proletariat from now.
And come by my studio.
And come by her studio.
Yeah, 410 23rd Street, downtown Galveston, Texas. I'm open from noon until 5 on Tuesdays through Saturdays.
Just a couple of doors down from the Proletariat.
Yeah.
Meeting with the artist on January 4th.
Yes.
Right here at the Proletariat. You can come by, look at the presentation.
And we have a surprise for you then, too. We're going to reveal something about these paintings that a lot of people haven't really noticed yet before. I like Easter eggs a lot.
Oh, my.
Yeah. And there's something about several of these pieces that set them apart from the rest. And again, it goes with the theme of transient states of being and adaptability.
Well, that's a pretty heady conclusion to our interview.
Ta-da-da!
Elizabeth Punches, what a delight to talk with you. We'll have your contact information on the header information of this podcast. Thank you again for talking with us.
It is totally my pleasure. Thank you for listening, taking the time, and thanks for looking at the work and for your support and appreciation.
And thank all of you for listening.
This has been From the Pro, conversations with the creators at the Proletariat. Theme percussion created and performed by Patrick Wheeler, mastered by Chris Criticos. From the Pro is a Jim Bratton production. I'm Sierra Sakel.